All right, y'all. So it's about 7:40. Actually, no, it's 8 o'clock. And today was a successful day because the goal was just to research. The goal of today was for me to just accumulate a lot of information, study, take a lot of notes, and do the work. Do the work. And the objective of today, as always, is psychology. You know, I love psychology. I love studying the human mind, understanding what makes us tick. So this video, I want to talk about why it's vitally and critically important. By the way, if you like what you hear here, leave a comment. I always forget to do this, so I'm just going to get it out of the way. Leave a comment. If you like it, leave a comment. All right. So yeah, let's dive right in. Why it's critically important that you monitor your mind, watch your thoughts, as vigorous, as critical as a hawk stalking its prey. If you ever watch Discovery Channel, you see a hawk when it stalks its prey. There's a laser-like focus before he strikes, and we gotta watch our thoughts the exact same way. You gotta watch your thoughts with a laser-like focus, and here's why. Very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. We're going to talk about telepresence. I'm going to tell you about telepresence, which is teletransportation or teletransporting, which is the same thing. Transporting. So here's the thing. How your psyche works is this, right? This is an aspect. Human beings, we experience, life is an experience, right? We're all experiencing life. Every day that you wake up, you're experiencing life, right? But here's the thing. We have real experiences, virtual experiences, and hallucinations. I'm going to say it again. We have real experiences, virtual experiences, and hallucinations. Why this is important? Because it determines your mind determines your life. A healthy mind will spring forth a healthy life for the most part. There will be exceptions to this rule, but generally and broadly speaking, and the healthier your mindset, the healthier your world and your life will be. Because I talked about simulation in my last video. All right, if you want to check that out, go back and see what I said. So we experience life in three main ways. Again, that's real experiences. I'm touching the table. I'm tapping the table. That's an actual experience, and I'm using my two senses are being employed here. A sense of feel, my feeling sensory system. I can feel the table, right? So I can feel it. That's the sense of touch, which is feelings. Feeling and touch, the same thing. And by me tapping it, I'm also incorporating the sense of sound, my sensory sound system. So, right, because human beings, we experience life, we collect data from our environment by the 5-based sensory system: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Again, that's sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. So by doing this is a real experience. This is real. It's an object that I'm actually experiencing. By tapping it, I'm hearing the sound. And then we have virtual experience. A virtual experience, this is a semi-virtual experience because I'm actually, on video here, talking to a perceived audience, right? So that's somewhat of a virtual experience because I'm not, if someone's listening to this, they're not in front of me right now, right? So this is a form of virtual. It's not fully immersed virtual, but there's different types. There's fully, right, like full immersion and full immersiveness in terms of virtual, and then you have semi or non-immersive. This is non-immersive because I'm not fully in, right? Then you have hallucination. Now hallucinations are you're employing your sensory system, right? You're employing perception, but there's nothing to perceive. In other words, there's no sight, but you're seeing things. There's nothing to see. You're hearing things, but there's no sound. You're smelling things, but there's nothing to smell, right? You're feeling things, but there's nothing to feel. So this is called hallucination. You're hallucinating. You're seeing things, you're hearing things, you're smelling things that's not there. So this is considered non-sensory information. You're gathering and collecting data, which is non-sensory because your senses are not employed. So you're therefore delusional. You're under an illusion. You're deluded, and you're hallucinating. That's what okay, so we got that out the way. Now, why it's so important that you watch your thoughts? I told you I'm going to talk about telepresence and presence. Why it's so important to watch your thoughts is because, for instance, if you went through a breakup, say it was a year ago, several months ago, whatever the time, 2 years ago, whatever the time it may be, and it was a terrible breakup. Every unwatched thought about that breakup, when I say unwatched, I mean you are not fully conscious that you're having this thought. You're not fully engaged in awareness of this thought. You're not fully aware. So you're semi-aware. You're on the bus, you're going to work, on the train, whatever, and you're having these thoughts about the breakup. But you're not fully aware that you're having the thoughts. Meaning, you're not, when I say fully aware, I mean like you're not catching yourself. Like, hey, unhealthy thought, let me get rid of it. Let me change the script. Let me change the scenario. So you're semi-aware, but full awareness would allow you to break rank with that thought. Full consciousness would allow you to break rank with that thought, because full consciousness will be sending signals that are contrary or contradictory to that negative thought of that experience. And if you send out a negative signal, which is your full awareness, you're fully conscious that, hey, I'm having a negative thought, and being fully conscious, you know that a negative thought does not produce positive mental health, a positive bank account, a positive lifestyle, anything. So you're fully conscious and knowing that you're having a negative thought, which is not conducive to a optimal or positive lifestyle. Just that awareness is a contradictory or conflicting signal, and that's going to cancel out and negate the signals that you're receiving from the negative experience that you're thinking about, because everything is a signal. So why this is important, why you need to watch your thoughts, check this out. You went through a breakup 2 years ago, a year ago, whatever, and it was terrible. The minute you start to ruminate, means to recycle, to bring up those past memories. And by the way, that memory stored in your hippocampus. It's like the USB for the brain. So you have this memory stored, and it comes to light, right? It comes to light because somebody on the train is wearing a cologne of the guy that broke your heart, or some girl on the train looks like the girl that cheated on you. So these are called stimuli. Stimuli are nothing but triggers in your environment. So that triggers that memory that has been latent. Latent means it's dormant, sleeping. It is now awakening you, and you're starting to think about this thing, right? And it was a horrible experience, but you're thinking about it because something in your proximal environment triggered it, right? Some stimulant. Now here's the problem. Here's where this stuff is powerful stuff. Why you must watch your thoughts. And when I say again, being consciously aware, fully consciously aware. Check this out. The minute you start to have to think about that situation, unbeknownst to you, you are experiencing. Let's say it's 2 years ago. You are experiencing the exact situation at that 2 year point, whatever that 2 year mark was. The minute you start to think about it, you are experiencing that very same day. It's as if you are living that day again. And let me explain, because it's called presence. It's called telepresence. Telepresence means that you are experiencing being there in a remote location from your present location. So your present location is on the train in 2002. You had a breakup in 2000. Something triggered you. A stimulant in your environment triggered and awakened the memory in your USB, the USB of your brain, which is your hippocampus. You teleport, right? You are telepresent is teleport, same difference. Your presence is actually there in 2000. Though you're in 2002 on a train, in terms of the MIT guys that engineers, how it's explained is that, again, using their terms, telepresent is a term. You are being transported there to the exact location, and you are experiencing the exact experience. You are reliving and having the exact. Now, if you start to talk about it to somebody, say you're on a train with a friend and you start talking about, or you call up your girlfriend when you get home, when you're talking about it, whatever happened 2 years ago, you are teleporting, you are telepresenting yourself to the exact same location, the exact same date. Everything that happened on that day of that breakup, you are actually conjuring up, which means you are picturing everything in your mind. You are conjuring means to cause something to appear in the mind. So everything that occurred on that day, if it was raining that day, if the sun was out that day, if there was a dog barking that day, everything that was happening that day, you're actually recreating in your mind, and therefore you're experiencing what's called presence. And presence in terms of the MIT, the engineering guys, just means allowing somebody to be there, right? So you're allowing yourself to be there. Presence again means feeling that you are there. It's a feeling. You are creating a feeling within yourself that you are there. You are there in 2000 at 5 o'clock when he dumped you. Or 2000, in 2000, you were there when you found out she was cheating on you. And you're in 2005, you're in 2006, it doesn't matter. You're in the future. This is a past event. But the minute you start to let your mind conjure up and think about it, you are putting your presence there. Your presence, okay? Your presence is you being there. Right? So you're putting yourself there, not in the sense of your locality, your physical locality, because your physical locality, like I said, is on the train in 2005. But your presence, which is your essence, which is your self, which is your true self, right, is no longer in 2005. You are in 2000 at 5 o'clock when you found out she was cheating on you with your best boy and y'all had a breakup and a terrible fight. So you're reliving the experience and you're having the experience all over again. This is why it's never good to talk about the past. Not in a negative light. If you're going to talk about the past, it must be talked about in a positive light. So this way you create new experiences, new results. Because remember, you're simulating all the time. You're reproducing, you're duplicating, you're replicating. So if you want to produce different results and you're going to talk about the negative, it has to be talked about in a positive light. So an example is if you're going to tell somebody about something that you went through in the past, you want to say it in a, look, this is what I learned from a negative situation that I went through. I learned that, you know what, I have to be this, I have to do this, I do things different. So you talk about it in a way where it was a learning experience, and look at how I've evolved, look at how I've grown from this. I remember I went through this breakup one time, and man, it taught me so much. Look, I've grown, I've learned how to be more more patient. I've learned how to be more studious. I've learned how to be more meticulous in terms of judgment of character. I learned how to vet and do my due diligence better. I learned how to make better decisions. So it has to be expressed. If you will talk about the past, it could be a financial, I had bankruptcy, filed bankruptcy 2 years ago. And guess what? Hey, this is what I learned from this, blah, blah, blah. I learned about chapter 11, and how to use the system, blah, 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 blah. It has whatever you talk about that you experience that's negative, you have to talk about it with a positive spin. And the reason why, because if you talk about it in the negatives light that it occurred in, you are going to reproduce more of that same thing in your current 2005, although it happened in 2000. you're going to reproduce that. You're going to reproduce more heartbreak, more financial ruin, whatever it is, the negative is that you're talking, because you're conjuring up pictures in your mind. Anytime we talk about something, it's called embodiment simulation, right? I'm trying to remember. Embodiment simulation. What that means is whatever you're simulating, your mind embodies, right? And embodies mean you give, you make an intangible item or something intangible, you make it tangible. You embody it. You give it physical character, physical nature, right? So whatever you're discussing, right? You're not only are you putting and placing yourself there in terms of telepresence, right? Which means being there in a distant location other than the location you're in, right? You're in a location other than the location that you're in. You're on the train in 2005, but you're discussing in the negative. You're discussing the negative in the negative within yourself or with someone else. You are putting yourself in terms of your feeling, in terms of all of your senses, right? All of your senses are being immersed in that situation that happened 2 years ago. And in terms of a presence, you are there. Though you're physically on the train, you are there in 2000. So it's important that we understand telepresence and presence, that you're putting yourself in, no matter how many years go. That's why therapy and counseling is great. I'm all for therapy. I'm all for counseling. That stuff is fantastic. But it takes more than an hour on someone's couch, right? It's a lot of self psychoanalysis. There's a term in Latin, it's called magnum opus, and it means the great work. In other words, there's a constant work that you must do on yourself. It's an everyday work. It's a lifestyle work, right? It's 24/7 round the clock work. There's no days off. So, incorporate counseling, incorporate therapy, but make sure you're constantly working on yourself every single day, not just when you go see a therapist. So understand, watch this video again, understand telepresence, what it means, presence, being there, distant, being in another location than the one you're in. You're putting yourself. So that's the negative, but you could use this telepresence for the positive too. So the same way you can be somewhere in the negative, you can be somewhere in the positive. So if you want to be, if you have a goal, if you have an objective, you talk about it within yourself, not necessarily to someone else. Talk about it within yourself, and by doing so, you're doing the same thing in the reverse. You're conjuring up positive images, right? You're picturing in your mind. It's embodied simulation. While you're simulating, which just means you're reproducing in your mind the things you want, you're giving body to it. You're embodying it. Embodying it means you're personifying it. You're giving it a figure, you're giving it structure, you're giving it depth, width, height, length, etc. Dimension. You're dimensionalizing it. I think that's the word. So yeah, you can use it for the positive as well. But be mindful, again, why you must always, always, always stalk your thoughts. You know how a stalker follows people around? You got to do that with your own mind. You got to stalk your mind. You got to follow every thought. Watch it. Trace it. Where's it coming from? What's the origin of why I'm thinking what I'm thinking? And then Control, Alt, Delete. I think that's Control, Alt, Delete. You got to delete it, and then substitute something else. You can't rewrite the script. You have to put a new script. You can't change the script. You have to put a new script. So, yeah, that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I want to share that with you guys. Till next time. Peace.